Hi, Sagittarius. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for September of 2022. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
I'm Julia Mijas in Pioneer, California.
Well, Sag, your month themes have a special emphasis on career and networking. If you need answers, anything Julia and I say here can be more fully explained in a mission orders reading. You'll find a link for that in the text that comes with this video. Well, I want to start, though, with Juno. And I talked about this a bit in the last couple of months, especially in July, in the video that we made about it. And you can find that in the 2022 news playlist on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology. But I do want to bottom line it now because there's an interesting milestone coming up for this Juno retrograde period. Juno shows here in your fourth house and it's retrograde, and Juno has to do with committed relationships and partnerships of all kinds, whether personal, such as a marriage, or professional, such as a business partnership. And when Juno goes retrograde, she triggers a relationship retrospection period for all of us, and it will be colored by the sign that Juno is in while it goes retrograde. In this case, that's Pisces. And so our relationship retrospection has a very Piscean tint to it. In other words, we're looking at our relationships on a deep level and asking ourselves, what's the underlying meaning and what way do our relationships mesh for us spiritually? So this falling in your fourth house means that this is tied into relationships that you have in your home environment or in your family. So like maybe you have a business with a family member, maybe you live with your spouse or co-parent. This time period is going to be very much dedicated to retrospection on those kinds of relationships and the deeper meaning that they hold. Now, on the 7th of September, Juno is going to be in opposition with the sun, and this is a really important part of the retrograde period. We call it Commitment Clarity Day, and it's a time when the sun illuminates that process, shines light on it, so that you can come to a clarity and understanding about the nature and meaning behind this committed relationship around the 7th of September. Now, a couple of days after that, there is going to be the first of this month's full moons, but let me hold off on that and fling the conversational ball over to Julia because she has news about Mercury, Venus, and Mars.
Yes, I do, Sagittarius. I'd like to start with Mercury first because Mercury's doing a lot of stuff this month. He's about to go retrograde, and he's going to be covering 2 houses of yours. So at the very beginning of the month, this planet that represents the thinker in you, wherever we have him is where we can be very preoccupied. It starts in your 11th house of friends, social groups, as well as your hopes, wishes, and dreams, those long-term goals of yours. So with Mercury in the 11th, this can be a very social time in your life. You're maybe connecting a lot more with friends. If you're a part of any groups, any unions, societies, clubs, you might find that there's a lot more communication with them. Now on the 10th, Mercury is going to go retrograde in this house, and retrograde cycles are times of rethinking and redoing. So in the 11th house, you might be rethinking some of your hopes, wishes, and dreams. Maybe you're re-strategizing around them. Maybe you're tweaking them. Now, this can also be a bit of a challenging cycle in terms of your friendship networks, because you might be having lots of miscommunications with your friends as well. Or if you are in any groups, it could happen within those groups too. September 22nd is a very interesting day because Mercury will be exactly conjoined the sun. And this happens about twice per retrograde cycle. Once when Mercury is going retrograde, like now, and that's known as Lesser Epiphany Day, and another time when Mercury is direct, known as Greater Epiphany Day. That's going to be happening later on. But as we're approaching this Lesser Epiphany Day on the 22nd, these can be times of clarification and insight, especially into the retrograde cycle, especially where Mercury is in your chart. So perhaps you could be having some clarifications about all those miscommunications you've been having in your life. This is also a technological house. So this Mercury retrograde cycle, may have also created, you could have had the technology in your life kind of on the fritz, so to speak. So you might have some clarification about the whether it's your computer or your phone or other technology you use. And since this is the house of your long-term goals, perhaps you're starting to get some aha moments about them, like, oh, I need to tweak it this way, or no, this is how I really should be pursuing that big dream of mine. And then on September 23rd, this retrograding Mercury is going to be going into your 10th house. This is a career house. It also represents the authority figures in your life. So when Mercury dips in here on September 23rd, this is going to be a time where the miscommunications may be cropping up more in the workplace. So that could be with clients, customers, coworkers, or even your boss, because this is the house of authority figures. That also could include any government officials that you have to deal with, as well as your parents too. Now, this whole Mercury retrograde cycle is finishing up next month on October 2nd. So definitely stay tuned to our videos because we'll tell you what that's going to feel like, which is good to know. Now, in some sort of more enjoyable news, I'm going to tell you what's going on with Venus this month. She's the planet of art, beauty, and relationship. And very early on in the month, on September 4th, she's going to enter your 10th house. Again, this house represents career, authority figures, also public reputation. So with Venus entering the 10th, even if you are having miscommunications at work or with authority figures, Venus is bringing some harmony to your relationships with them this month. This is a good time to be benefited by an authority figure. Maybe your boss pulls a special favor for you. Maybe you're getting along well with your parents. But this is a time where authority figures should be going sort of well in your life, and where you might be benefited from them. Venus in the 10th is also a nice time in your career. You might be getting pleasure at your job, being a little happy worker bee. And since this house rules your public reputation, if you do anything in the public eye, if you do anything to promote yourself in any way, then Venus is adding a little bit of luck here. That could mean that maybe your public social media accounts start getting a few more followers, or if you do any public speaking or public engagements, things going well for you, being well received by the public. Now, Mars, I gotta say a few things about Mars, the planet of action and activity. Mars is going to be starting a retrograde cycle next month, and you're definitely going to want to hear about that. So really stay tuned to our next month's video as well. Now, Mars, even though he's not retrograde yet this month, he's slowing down a lot. So he's going to be spending a number of months in your 7th house. This is very good to keep track of. The 7th house represents your partnership, whether you are in a romantic relationship, whether you are single and have a fun best friend you spend all your time with, or whether you're working and you have a business partner. So Mars in the 7th house, wherever we have Mars, there can be a lot of activity in our life. There can be a lot of drive there. But since Mars is a more challenging planet than, let's say, Venus, who brings luck and pleasure wherever she goes, Mars can bring sometimes some frustrations and challenges along the way. So in your 7th house, this is a good time to get very active, very energetic with your partner. If you guys could go to the gym together, if you guys could start jogging together, that would be a great constructive use of this transit, or even getting involved in a physical project where you guys are just kind of busting away at something, maybe painting a room, maybe fixing the sink in the kitchen. But, really kind of getting your energy out with your partner can be a wonderful constructive manifestation of this transit. Now, Mars isn't always easy. So this can be a time where you run into more disagreements with your partner than usual, where maybe you guys aren't seeing eye to eye on everything, or maybe they're just annoying you a lot more. Wherever we have Mars is where we can get annoyed too. So again, if you kind of channel that energy into really getting quite physical and active with your partner in some way, then you can definitely kind of access the higher side of this transit. And since this house also rules contractors, so people that you might need to hire, whether you have a social media consultant, a doctor, a lawyer who you're talking to help give you advice, this can also be a time of disagreements with them, where you're not really seeing eye to eye with them. And you might need to kind of reconsider some parts of that contracting relationship as well.
Yes, that's very possible. So there are a couple of moons and a seasonal change I want to tell you about. The first of these is a full moon in Pisces, which lands right here in your fourth house, bringing strong feeling and a sense of nurture to your home arena. And look how close this lands to Juno right here. So it definitely ties into Juno's relationship retrospection period. And a full moon, of course, means that it's opposite the sun. So the sun is pulling your energy and attention up here into the 10th house of career. So there's a bit of a tug of war going on here. Now, this particular full moon we're calling Reimagine Relationships, but Face Pragmatic Facts. The reimagining of relationships, obviously, is the Juno and moon in Pisces here. And I think that the addition of the full moon in Pisces conjuncting this Juno definitely amps up the imaginative nature of Juno in Pisces and helps you to imagine even more fully, more deeply. And this moon comes close on the heels of the sun opposing Juno, which it did just a few days before on the 7th. And so any insights that cropped up around that day may more further the process on this day. So the tug of war means that the Pisces side is about the imagining, that process of looking at things through that spiritual lens. But the sun in Virgo up here in the 10th house is also pressing for pragmatism, for real world. Like, you can't just sit at home and retreat and daydream all the time. You've got to also account for the fact that the world is out there and it has its demands, right? So it's the sun that is pressing for facing pragmatic facts in this particular full moon. So this sun starts the month in Virgo here in the 10th house, which I talked about in last month's horoscope. And it has a lot to do with bringing the sunlight of your high quality attention to the career arena. And I hope that you've been doing that before even this month begins. But on the 23rd, the sun will move on into the 11th house. And so that's where you should bring the sunlight of your high quality attention into the 11th house arena of, yes, technology, as Julia said, but also just networks, friends, community, acquaintances, those circles of people that you spend time with. And when the sun moves into this house, really, you can do a lot of cultivating and cause a lot of flourishing in your community and in your community relationships for the 30-day season of Libra while the sun is passing along this house. Now, Mercury, as Julia mentioned, conjoins with the sun in Lesser Epiphany Day right here on the 23rd, and that's the same day that the sun moves into the 11th house. So there's this wonderful burst of insight regarding community, and also perhaps if you've been having some tech issues, some clarity may come around that as well here. And then as the sun moves on deeper into this house and Mercury retreats to the 10th house, causing, some retrospection that goes back into the career arena there. The moon moves on and conjoins the sun right here on September 25th, right there, moon in Libra with the sun. And this particular new moon, we're calling calculated diplomacy versus boundless enthusiasm, because it's a moon in Libra, which is very diplomatic, very socially adept, very much the ambassador, showing up in your 11th house of community. And Mercury is there with it in Virgo, where Mercury loves to be, very analytical, very cool-headed, level-headed even. And all of this is really very social, and it's facing off against Jupiter in Aries, which is kind of antisocial, which I don't mean in terms of like being misanthropic or, like excessively shy or introverted. What I mean here is that this Jupiter in Aries is an awful lot like a great big golden retriever that jumps on you and licks your whole face without thinking about your experience of that. Jupiter in Aries is a little bit famous for being absolutely clueless about the impact that is being made by all of its enthusiasm and very big personality. So there may be a kind of a face-off, perhaps between you and a person like that during this particular new moon. Now, new moons are really good times for the planting of seeds. And the 11th house, being the house of your community, is it's like your group, your peeps, your tribe, the people that you hang with. And this is a natural opposite to the 5th house, which is the house of your very self, your identity, and how you build your brand, how you become a self, and how you center. It can be a very self-centered house as well. And with Jupiter passing along this house for much of this year, you may be feeling a lot of confidence about who you are and how you express yourself. And while that's a wonderful thing, on this particular new moon, you might face a little bit of mirroring from your friends or your community, which might cause you to have to curb your enthusiasm. So watch out for that around September 25 when this new moon happens. And that's what we have for you today, Sag. You can always find this horoscope and the horoscope for your other sign, whether that's your sun sign or your rising sign, on our website, pandoraastrology.com, in the horoscopes tab. And if this horoscope makes you want a reading, you can check out the types of readings tab, find something fun for yourself, and get into the schedule of Julia or myself. And if you want to know more about this month's full and new moons, you can check out the monthly forecast tab and learn all about them and their influence. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.
Bye-bye.